Rimuru, the hero copycat by RimuruEdward6. Hawks Pav. I was about to end my patrol when my earpiece buzzed again. The same voice from earlier came through, sounding hesitant this time. Hawks, I found something else about copycat. It's not in any official reports, but it's a rumor that's been circulating among a few pros. A rumor? I asked, slowing my flight and perching on a nearby ledge. You've got my attention. What's it about? All Might, the voice said simply. My eyebrows shot up. All Might. What about him? Well, it's said that he's seen her in person. Apparently, during one of his solo investigations, he crossed paths with her, though it's unclear what the circumstances were. Some say she helped him with a covert operation, but neither of them reported it officially. I frowned, my feathers twitching slightly. So, you're telling me the number one hero might have worked with Copycat, and no one knows the details? Exactly. It's unconfirmed, but it's a story that's popped up among the older heroes. If true, it would explain why her records are so heavily classified. If All Might vouched for her or worked with her, it could have been part of a high-level operation. I leaned against the ledge, my mind racing. If All Might had met her and possibly even worked with her, that elevated her status even further in my eyes. What kind of hero just casually teams up with All Might and stays off the radar? I muttered to myself. Someone very good at what they do, the voice replied. But that's all I've got for now. Thought you should know. Appreciate it, I said, ending the call. I stood there for a moment, staring out at the city. If the rumor was true, Copycat wasn't just some unknown hero operating in the shadows. She was someone important, someone trusted by the symbol of peace himself. But why? And more importantly, why was she staying so hidden? First All for One's lackeys, now this. You're full of surprises, Copycat. With a sigh, I spread my wings and took to the sky, more determined than ever to uncover the truth about this mysterious hero. The next day, I decided to take a break from my usual patrols. After the tense encounter with All for One's lackeys and the mystery surrounding Copycat, I needed some time to clear my head. So, I found myself wandering into a local arcade, a place I hadn't visited in years. The bright lights and sounds of clinking tokens and arcade machines were a surprisingly good distraction. I walked through the rows of games, watching kids and teens battle it out on fighting games or race cars on giant screens. That's when I heard it. Her voice. Are you really going to lose again, Takuya? You're making this way too easy. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, confident, and unmistakable. My head snapped toward the sound, my heart skipping a beat. Could it really be her? I scanned the crowd, trying to pinpoint the source of the voice. Near one of the racing game machines, I spotted a group of teens. Among them was a girl with silver hair tied back in a loose ponytail, leaning casually against the machine as she watched a boy fumble with the controls. It was her. It had to be. Copycat. I blurted out, stepping closer. The girl turned, her blue eyes widening slightly before narrowing with annoyance. Sorry, what? She said, her voice calm but sharp. You must have me confused with someone else. For a second, I hesitated. Could I have been wrong? She looked younger than I expected, and there was no sign of the professionalism or confidence I'd heard over the earpiece yesterday. Still, something about her felt off. Right, my mistake, I said, trying to sound casual. You just sounded like someone I know. She rolled her eyes, brushing it off. Yeah, sure. Happens all the time. Before I could press further, her voice echoed in my head, clear and unmistakable. Stop talking about me in front of civilians. You'll blow my cover. I froze, the realization hitting me like a ton of bricks. Telepathy. Of course. It was her. I cleared my throat, trying not to give anything away. Well, enjoy your game, I said awkwardly, stepping back. She gave me a small, dismissive wave before turning back to her group, her demeanor completely unbothered. As I walked away, her voice echoed in my head again. We'll talk later. Don't follow me. I left the arcade, my mind spinning. So, it really was her. But why was she here, blending in with a group of kids like she was just another teenager? The day had barely begun to settle into evening when her voice came back, clear as day, echoing in my mind like she was standing right next to me. Mind if I come over to your place tonight? I don't want to talk to anybody in public. I paused mid-step, glancing around instinctively even though I knew she wasn't anywhere nearby. The telepathy again. It was unnerving how easily she slipped into my head, but I couldn't exactly say no. Sure, I thought, hoping she could hear my response. I'll send you the location. There was no reply, but somehow, I knew she'd heard me. Later that evening, I was perched on the edge of my apartment balcony, watching the city below. The lights glimmered like stars scattered across the ground, and for a moment, I let myself relax. It didn't last long. The faintest sound of footsteps on my rooftop caught my attention. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Subtle entrance, I said, turning to see her standing there, her silver hair catching the moonlight. She wore casual clothes, a hoodie and jeans, but her presence carried the same air of quiet confidence that I'd felt over the phone. I wasn't aiming for subtle, Rimuru said as she stepped forward, crossing her arms. Just efficient. I raised an eyebrow. So, copycat finally shows up in person. To what do I owe the honor? She sighed, leaning against the railing. I figured you'd keep digging until you found me, so I might as well get ahead of it. I smirked. Smart move. But you've gotta admit, you're an interesting mystery. Secret hero, classified files, and now this, telepathy thing. Care to explain? Rimuru tilted her head, her expression unreadable. Not really. Not really. I repeated, crossing my arms. You called me, remember? If you want to keep things vague, that's fine, but you can't expect me not to ask questions. She rolled her eyes, but there was a faint smirk on her lips. Fine. You've earned a few answers. But only a few. I gestured for her to continue, curious what she'd actually reveal. I work in the shadows for a reason, she said, her tone calm but firm. There are people, powerful people, who would use me if they knew what I could really do. Staying hidden is the only way to protect myself and the people I care about. And the telepathy? I asked, leaning against the railing beside her. Is that part of your quirk? Not exactly, she admitted. It's a side ability I've picked up from analyzing certain quirks. Let's just say it comes in handy. I whistled low. You've got layers, I'll give you that. But why reach out to me now? Why risk showing yourself? Her expression darkened slightly, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. Because things are escalating, she said quietly. All for One's lackeys are moving faster than usual. Whatever they're planning, it's big. And I can't do this alone. I straightened up, my playful smirk fading. You're asking for help. More like coordination, she corrected. You're good at what you do, Hawks. Better than most. I need someone I can trust to cover ground I can't. Her words carried a weight that was hard to ignore. I nodded slowly. All right, copycat. I'm in. But you've got to level with me if this partnership is going to work. No more half-truths. She hesitated for a moment before nodding. Deal. But only when it's necessary. I chuckled. Fair enough. So, what's our next move? Rimuru stepped back, her calm demeanor returning. For now, stay alert. I'll contact you when I have more intel. She turned to leave, but I stopped her. One more thing, I said, my tone serious. Why me? Of all the heroes you could have reached out to, why did you choose me? She glanced back, a small smile tugging at her lips. Because you're like me, you see the bigger picture. And I think you'll make the right calls when it matters. With that, she leapt off the balcony, disappearing into the night. I stood there for a moment, the city lights stretching out before me. The city was quiet that night, the hum of distant traffic a steady backdrop as I stared out over the rooftops. I hadn't moved much since Rimuru left, my mind still replaying her words. She was sharp, capable, and secretive to a fault. But there was something else about her, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. That's when I heard it. A voice in my head again, but this time it wasn't calm and composed like before. It was flustered, almost trembling with emotion. And you are the reason why I'm a hero in the first place. You saved me from a fate worse than death. I froze, my feathers twitching as my heart skipped a beat. Rimuru. I said aloud, glancing around as if expecting her to appear. There was no reply, but her voice continued in my head, softer now, as though she were struggling to say the words. You probably don't remember. You've saved so many people. But years ago, you saved me. Back then, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to keep going, but seeing you fight for people you didn't even know, it gave me hope. You gave me hope. My chest tightened as her words sank in. I didn't need to ask if she was telling the truth. The raw emotion in her voice was impossible to fake. Rimuru, I said, softer this time. What happened to you? There was a pause, and then her voice returned, steadier now but still tinged with vulnerability. It's not something I talk about. Not with anyone. But I thought, you should know. You're the reason I became a hero. The reason I fight, even when it feels impossible. I ran a hand through my hair, caught between surprise and guilt. How many people had I saved over the years without thinking about the lasting impact? To me, it was just part of the job. But to someone like Rimuru, it had clearly been life-changing. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? I asked. Her voice turned wry, a hint of her usual confidence returning. Because it's embarrassing. I don't do the whole, heartfelt confession thing. But I figured you deserved to know. I chuckled softly despite myself. Well, thanks for telling me. But you should know, you're doing pretty damn good as a hero yourself. There was a brief silence, and then I felt her presence fade from my mind, like a weight lifting. She was gone, leaving me alone with the quiet of the night once more. I leaned back against the railing, staring up at the stars. Rimuru's words echoed in my mind, and for the first time in a while, I felt something deeper than just duty pulling at me. You're the reason I became a hero. Whatever had happened to Rimuru in the past, I knew one thing for sure, she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for something bigger, and she believed in me enough to let me in, even if only a little. Alright, copycat, I thought with a faint smile. Let's make sure we don't let anyone down. Izuku Pav. The evening was quiet, and I was sitting at my desk, scribbling in my notebook. My thoughts were a whirlwind of everything Rimuru had told me over the past few days, about quirks, my potential, and the possibilities I'd never dared to imagine for myself. I'd just finished sketching out a new hero strategy when I heard a knock at the door. I froze, glancing at the clock. It was late, and I wasn't expecting anyone. Who could that be? I muttered, standing up and cautiously making my way to the door. When I opened it, my jaw nearly dropped. Rimuru. I blurted, blinking in surprise. There she was, standing on my doorstep with her silver hair tied back and her blue eyes as calm and unreadable as ever. She was dressed casually, in a hoodie and jeans, but something about her presence still felt serious. Hey, Izuku, she said, her voice steady but softer than usual. Mind if I come in? Oh. Yeah, sure. I stepped aside quickly, feeling flustered. Come on in. She walked past me, glancing around the small apartment. Nice place, she said, though her tone didn't carry much emotion. Thanks, I said nervously, closing the door. What brings you here? Is everything okay? Rimuru turned to face me, crossing her arms. Yeah, everything's fine. I just needed to talk to someone, and, well, you seemed like a good choice. Her words caught me off guard. Rimuru wasn't exactly the type to open up, so the fact that she'd come to me was surprising. Oh, I said, trying to sound calm even though my heart was racing. Well, I'm happy to help. What's on your mind? She hesitated for a moment, then sighed. Let's sit down first. We moved to the small living room, and I sat across from her, clutching my notebook nervously. She leaned back in her seat, her expression thoughtful. Izuku, she began, her tone unusually serious. What would you do if you knew something dangerous was about to happen, but you couldn't tell anyone about it? Her question threw me. What do you mean? Hypothetically, she said, waving a hand. If you knew something bad was coming, but telling people might make it worse, what would you do? I frowned, my mind racing. I guess I'd try to find a way to stop it myself. Or at least figure out how to keep people safe without causing a panic. Rimuru nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer. Yeah, that's what I thought. Why? I asked, leaning forward. Is something going on? She gave me a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Nothing you need to worry about right now. But, thanks, Izuku. It helps to hear that. I opened my mouth to press further, but something about her expression stopped me. Instead, I just nodded. Anytime, Rimuru. You know you can count on me. Her smile softened, and for a moment, she looked almost vulnerable. Thanks, she said quietly. Then, after a brief pause, she stood up. I should get going. I didn't mean to keep you up. Oh, it's no problem. I said quickly, standing up too. If you ever need to talk, you can always come here. She glanced at me, her golden eyes unreadable once again. I'll remember that. With that, she walked to the door, her usual calm confidence returning as she stepped out into the night. As I closed the door behind her, I couldn't shake the feeling that something big was going on, something she wasn't telling me. Rimuru, I thought, clutching my notebook tightly. What are you dealing with? And how can I help? Something about Rimuru's visit didn't sit right with me. She was always calm, always collected, but tonight, there had been a tension in her voice, a weight in her words that I couldn't ignore. I couldn't help myself. After she left, I grabbed my shoes and quietly slipped out the door, determined to follow her. The streets were quiet, the faint glow of streetlights casting long shadows. Rimuru moved quickly but without any urgency, like she knew exactly where she was going. I stayed far enough back to avoid being seen, my heart pounding in my chest with every step. After a few blocks, she stopped near a quiet park and pulled out her phone. I ducked behind a tree, holding my breath as I strained to hear her voice. I made contact with Hawks, she said, her voice low and steady. He's on board. We're coordinating now. Hawks. My eyes widened. The pro-hero Hawks. What was she doing talking to him? Yeah, she continued, her tone softening slightly. He's sharp, but I don't think he fully trusts me yet. Can't blame him, though. There was a pause, and I realized she was listening to whoever was on the other end of the line. Right, she said after a moment. The lackeys were easy enough to track, but they're just the beginning. If we don't stop this soon, it's going to spiral out of control. My stomach twisted. Lackeys. Was she talking about villains? I can handle it, she said firmly, though there was a hint of frustration in her voice. But we need to move fast. All for One doesn't wait for anyone. My breath caught in my throat. All for One. I tried to process what I was hearing. Rimuru was working with Hawks, one of the top pro-heroes, and they were dealing with All for One. None of this made sense. Before I could think any further, her voice cut through the air again, sharper this time. And for the record, Hawks, no, I'm not dragging anyone else into this. I don't need a partner. I just need you to do your job. Another pause, and then she sighed. Yeah, I know. But trust me, this is bigger than you think. Just stay on your end of things, and I'll handle mine. She ended the call and slipped the phone back into her pocket, her posture stiff as she stood there in the quiet park. I didn't dare move, my mind racing with questions. Rimuru wasn't just my friend, she was involved in something far bigger than I'd ever imagined. And somehow, it involved All for One. I stayed frozen behind the tree, barely daring to breathe as Rimuru sighed, her voice carrying softly in the still night air. All for One never leaves me to a normal life, will he? She muttered, almost to herself. First All Might, and now Hawks. I can't even quit anymore because I'm too well known now. Her words sent a jolt through me. Too well known. Quit. What was she talking about? Rimuru sat down on a nearby bench, leaning forward with her elbows on her knees and her hands gripping her head. She looked tired, far more than I'd ever seen her. The confident, composed Rimuru I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone weighed down by something far heavier than she could handle. I didn't ask for this, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I just wanted to help, to make up for what he did to me. But no matter what I do, it's never enough. He's always a step ahead. I gripped the tree trunk tightly, her words hitting me like a punch to the chest. What he did to her. Was she talking about All for One? Rimuru stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth as if trying to shake off her frustration. And now I'm stuck, she muttered, her tone bitter. Too deep to leave, too known to stay hidden. I should have stayed in the shadows like I planned. At least then I wouldn't have dragged anyone else into this mess. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. This wasn't the Rimuru I thought I knew. She was carrying a burden so heavy, it was breaking through her usual calm facade. I can't let him win, she said finally, stopping to look up at the sky. Her fists clenched at her sides, and her voice hardened. Not after everything he's taken. Not after everything I've lost. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Rimuru. I said softly, stepping out from behind the tree. Her head snapped toward me, her golden eyes wide with shock. Izuku. She hissed, her voice sharp. What are you doing here? Two followed you, I admitted, my voice trembling. I was worried. You didn't seem okay when you left, and then I heard you talking. Her expression darkened, and for a moment, I thought she might yell at me. But instead, she sighed again, running a hand through her blue hair. You weren't supposed to hear that. Rimuru, I said, stepping closer. What's going on? What are you dealing with? Is it all for one? She froze, her golden eyes narrowing as she looked at me. For a moment, she didn't say anything, as if weighing whether or not to answer. Finally, she sighed, her shoulders slumping. You weren't supposed to find out, she said quietly. But yeah, Izuku. It's all for one. And it's a lot more complicated than you think. I felt my stomach twist. How are you involved with him? Why didn't you tell me? Because you're better off not knowing, she said, her voice hard. You're trying to become a hero, Izuku. You don't need my mess dragging you down before you even get started. But you're my friend, I said, my voice rising. If you're in danger, I want to help. Two can't just sit back and do nothing while you're dealing with something this big. Her expression softened slightly, and she shook her head. You don't get it, Izuku. This isn't something you can just fight your way through. All for one, he doesn't play by the same rules as everyone else. He's a monster, and he doesn't care who he hurts. Then let me help you. I insisted. You don't have to do this alone. Rimuru looked at me for a long moment, her golden eyes searching mine. Finally, she sighed, a small, tired smile tugging at her lips. You're too stubborn for your own good, you know that. She said softly. I smiled nervously, scratching the back of my head. I've been told that before. She chuckled faintly, then her expression grew serious again. All right, Izuku. If you're that determined, I'll tell you everything. But not here. Let's go somewhere private. I nodded, my heart pounding. Whatever was going on, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let Rimuru face it alone. Izuku Pav. Rimuru turned, her golden eyes gleaming faintly under the moonlight. For a moment, she seemed lost in thought, as if debating whether to say something. Then, with a faint smirk tugging at her lips, she broke the silence. You know, she said softly, I think your quirk might be able to help me after all. I blinked, startled. Quirk. But Rimuru, I don't even. Stop, she interrupted, raising a hand. We've been through this, Izuku. You've got a quirk. You just don't see it for what it is yet. I frowned, her words stirring a mix of hope and doubt in my chest. But how? How could my quirk, if I even have one, help with something like this? You're fighting villains like All for One and his lackeys. I'm just, me. Rimuru stepped closer, her expression softening. That's exactly why. You see things no one else does, Izuku. You analyze everything, break it down, and find the patterns no one else notices. That kind of insight can be the difference between success and failure in what I'm dealing with. Her words made my heart race. You really think I could help? I know you can, she said, her voice firm. But you'll need to start trusting yourself first. Once you do, you'll realize just how powerful your quirk really is. I looked down at my hands, her words swirling in my mind. Could she be right? Could my obsession with analyzing heroes and quirks really be a quirk in itself? And could it actually make a difference in something as big as fighting All for One? But what would I even do? I asked hesitantly. Rimuru smirked. For now, I just need your brain. Your knack for strategy and figuring out how quirks work. If you're willing, I think you could be the missing piece I've been looking for. Her confidence in me was overwhelming, but it also lit a spark of determination in my chest. If Rimuru believed in me, maybe I could start believing in myself too. I'll do whatever I can to help, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Her smirk softened into a genuine smile. Good. You'll need to start thinking like a hero sooner than you realize, Izuku. Things are about to get a lot more complicated. I nodded, clutching my notebook tightly. Whatever was coming, I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let Rimuru face it alone. If she thought my quirk could help, I'd do everything in my power to prove her right. Rimuru crossed her arms, her golden eyes narrowing slightly as she gave me a wry smile. Do you know why I know your quirk can help, Izuku? Why I'm so sure? I shook my head, confused. Why? She sighed, running a hand through her silver hair. Because I've been using your quirk in duo missions. A lot. Lately, every time I'm in a tight spot, your quirk, the way you think, the way you analyze, has been the key to solving the problem. Even if you didn't know it. My jaw dropped. You've been using my quirk. How? It's part of mine, she admitted, her voice calm but serious. When I copy quirks, it's not just the flashy ones I focus on. I can analyze thought processes, tactics, patterns of thinking. That's how I've been using your quirk, Izuku. I didn't even realize I was tapping into it until recently. She took a step closer, her gaze steady. When I'm in the field, I've been running through scenarios, picking apart weaknesses, predicting outcomes, and it all clicks because of the way your mind works. Your instinct for strategy is incredible. It's saved my life more times than I can count. I stared at her, stunned. But I didn't. I didn't know you could do that. Neither did I, she said with a faint smirk. At first, I thought I was just getting better at my own tactics. Then I realized it wasn't just me, it was you. Your way of thinking, your ability to analyze quirks and situations, it's more than just talent. It's your quirk, Izuku. And it's a damn good one. Her words sent a wave of emotion crashing over me, disbelief, pride, and hope all mixed together. Why tell me now? I asked, my voice shaking. Rimuru's smirk faded into something softer, almost regretful. Because I realized I was taking it for granted. Borrowing your quirk without even telling you, that wasn't fair to you. And because this next mission, it's going to be the toughest one yet. I need your help, Izuku. For real this time. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest. You think Hawks would be a perfect fit for this, don't you? She nodded. I've been working with Hawks for a while now, coordinating missions and gathering intel. He's sharp, adaptable, and he trusts his instincts. But there's something missing, someone who can see the angles neither of us can. That's you, Izuku. Her confidence in me was overwhelming, but it ignited a fire in my chest. If she believed in me, maybe I could finally start believing in myself too. I'll do it, I said, my voice trembling but resolute. Whatever you need, I'll do it. Rimuru smiled, her golden eyes softening. I knew you would. Now, let's get to work. And just like that, I felt like I was finally stepping into the role I'd always dreamed of, being a hero, even if it was in a way I'd never imagined. Rimuru's golden eyes glinted with something between amusement and determination as she crossed her arms and tilted her head at me. Wanna see my hero license? She asked, her voice casual but laced with a challenge. I blinked, startled. Wait, you have a hero license? Of course I do, she said, smirking as she reached into her pocket. How else do you think I've been working with Hawks? Or handling all these missions? She pulled out a sleek black card with silver accents and handed it to me. My hands trembled slightly as I took it, my eyes scanning the text eagerly. Name: Rimuru Tempest. Hero code name: Copycat. Quirk: Analytical Copycat. Rank: Classified. My jaw dropped as I stared at it. You're a licensed hero. But how? You're the same age as me. Special exceptions, she said with a shrug. They don't hand these out to just anyone, but, let's just say I had the skills they needed, and they couldn't afford to wait. I looked up at her, my head spinning. You've been a pro hero this whole time. Why didn't you tell me? Because, she said simply, taking the card back and slipping it into her pocket, it's not something I advertise. Being a hero isn't about the fame or recognition for me, Izuku. It's about getting the job done, no matter what it takes. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Still, I said, my voice quiet, you could have told me. I mean, we're friends, right? I would have understood. Rimuru's smirk softened into a faint smile. I know. And maybe I should have. But I didn't want you to get dragged into my mess. Now, well, I guess there's no avoiding it. I nodded slowly, her words settling deep in my chest. So, what now? What do you need me to do? She placed a hand on my shoulder, her golden eyes locking onto mine. Now, you help me show the world what your quirk can do. Together, we're going to make sure All for One doesn't win. You in? My heart pounded as I met her gaze. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just chasing a dream, I was stepping into it. I'm in, I said firmly. Her smile widened, and she pulled her hand back. Good. Now let's get to work. Rimuru leaned back against my desk, her golden eyes sharp and focused. Her usual calm demeanor was still there, but there was an intensity behind her gaze that sent a shiver down my spine. Izuku, she said, her voice firm but not unkind. I want data on as many quirks as you can think about. Everything you know, every little detail you've ever analyzed. I need it. I blinked, startled. Why you want me to share my quirk notes with you? She nodded. Exactly. Your notes, your observations, anything that could help us understand how different quirks interact or counter each other. The more data we have, the better we can prepare for what's coming. I clutched my notebook tightly, a mixture of pride and nervousness bubbling in my chest. I've got a lot of notes. I mean, I've been studying quirks for years, ever since I was a kid. But why do you need them now? Because, Rimuru said, crossing her arms, we're not just dealing with random villains, Izuku. All for One's lackeys are dangerous because of their quirks, and they know how to use them. If we want to stand a chance, we need to understand their abilities, and how to counter them, better than they do. Her words made sense, but the thought of sharing my work still felt overwhelming. My notebooks were my life's work, my dream written out in endless pages of analysis and observations. Okay, I said hesitantly. I'll share what I've got. But it's a lot. Where do we start? Rimuru smirked. Start with quirks that are versatile or dangerous in the wrong hands. Think about quirks that could disrupt a team, cause chaos, or give someone an unfair advantage. Those are the ones All for One's people are most likely to use. I nodded, flipping open my current notebook. Pages and pages of neatly written notes stared back at me, diagrams and charts detailing every quirk I'd ever studied. All right, I said, my voice steadying. Let's start with teleportation quirks. They're rare, but they can change the entire flow of a fight if used strategically. I've got notes on one called Warp Gate. Rimuru listened intently as I began sharing my observations, occasionally chiming in with questions or comments. Her focus was laser sharp, and for the first time, I felt like my work was truly being appreciated. As we pored over the data together, a thought struck me. Rimuru, I said, looking up from my notes. Why don't you just copy these quirks? I mean, with your ability, couldn't you just analyze them directly? She shook her head. It's not that simple. I need to observe a quirk in action to fully understand it, and even then, there are limits to what I can do. That's why your notes are so valuable, they give me a head start. I nodded, her explanation making sense. Alright. Then let's get to work. If we're going to face All for One's people, we need to be ready for anything. Her golden eyes gleamed with determination. Exactly. Together, we're going to make sure they don't stand a chance. For the first time in my life, I felt like all my years of studying quirks were finally paying off. Rimuru's confidence in me was contagious, and I was determined to rise to the challenge. We were going to do this, together.